Hey, what's going on, everybody? John Stamper, host of the Beyond the Operatory podcast. And today's guest on this episode is Brian Colao, who is the member and director of the DSO Industry Group at Dykema. I'm very excited for you to watch this episode as well as the additional 2 episodes that we did with Brian for a host of different reasons. When I think about somebody in the DSO space who has transformed this part of the dental industry, I think about Brian. And sure, Brian has years of experience on the legal side of dentistry, and Dykema is helping, this middle market side of the DSO space with, buy side and sell side transactions. I mean, I think that's kind of the technical piece of what Brian has brought to this industry. But I think what you're going to learn in watching these episodes with Brian is the additional commitment he has made to continue to learn and be a student of the industry. Whether it is the time that he recently has spent understanding and learning more about some of the technology that is being brought into the dental space, and or some of the startup organizations that are wanting to launch in the DSO space. Brian has made a commitment to have his hands in all of these things. And I think when you look at his annual conference, which is the Dykema DSO Conference, which is the largest DSO event in the industry, you don't continue to grow that if you don't spend the extra hours to really learn and understand what is important and where things are going in the industry. Brian has positioned himself as an individual that companies and DSOs and organizations alike look to when they not only want to understand where the industry is going, but maybe understand what didn't work, what are some of the things that they could do better. And so having this opportunity to spend some time with Brian on these 3 episodes, through the lens of Beyond the Operatory, we went down some different roads, and I'm really looking forward to learning from Brian, but more importantly, seeing the passion that he has for this space through these episodes. Enjoy. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode here on Beyond the Operatory, a podcast brought to you by the team at Dental City. I'm your host, John Stamper, and it has been an absolute honor and privilege to spend some time with Brian Colao. We had 2 episodes. The first one, Brian really kind of dove into his macroeconomic look, like where we've come from in the industry, some highs and lows, really kind of resetting the dial for where we're going moving forward. Then an episode, the second one that we did with Brian, we really kind of get into same store growth, right? When you think about where the industry has come, so many of you now, we know it's important that you look inside your 4 walls. Like, how can you grow your practice, your DSO with the technologies and tools that are out there? So really encourage you to go listen to that one if you didn't get a chance, because Brian really shared a lot of nuggets. And I think one of the unique things about Brian that I love is that this is not just theory. I mean, Brian, in so many regards, in addition to his experience at Dykema and as an attorney, has really made the effort to dive into technology companies and helping a lot of these organizations in dentistry do what they need to do to get better. So now what we're going to do, we want to go back a little bit. For those of you that are not aware of the Dykema conference, we're going to highlight that. It definitely, what started as a legal conference, which I'm excited to hear kind of the origin of it, and what it has grown into now. It's essentially become this place where there's deal making, there's networking. It's really kind of taken a life of its own. And Brian, I'm excited, for this episode, just to kind of roll up our sleeves and have you go back a little bit, maybe kind of live what this journey has been like for you as we get into what is the Dykema conference. But it's great to have you back. How you doing?
Yeah, no, happy to be back here. This has been a lot of fun to be with you, John, on these episodes.
All right, so I want to start with, if you can remember the time when this Dykema conference became a reality, when it went from something that you were thinking about to like, we're actually going to call, reserve the place and try to get people to come.
All right, so I was sitting in the ocean in Cancun at the Ritz-Carlton at a DSO meeting, one of my clients that I was representing. I feel like this will be our 13th year. So you back up 13 years, that probably was 2013. I think our first event was 014 or something like that. But I was sitting there and I was like feeling sorry for myself. I was like, I know a lot about this industry and I've tried to get on stage at some of these events and they're up there and I don't like what these people are saying and the stuff they're saying is not accurate about DSOs and they don't understand. And I've asked to go and either some conferences are just dental only. Remember back in those days, they were like, no, we're just a general dental conference. We don't want to talk about DSOs. So they would say no. Others that covered DSOs, I maybe didn't have the budget. They were like, yeah, you want to write us a check for 50 grand, come up here. And I'm like, why? To go up there and say correct things? I got to pay 50 grand. And some were like, yeah, that's how it goes. So, I couldn't get on stage. So I was like, I feel like I have some education to provide. I have some valuable information, but nobody will let me, be a part of it. And I said, well, instead, and I'm sitting in the ocean and the waves are, I'm just like rolling with the waves. And I'm like, but what am I going to do about this? And I'm like, well, instead of whining and complaining, how about if I do my own event? And I said, well, I'm going to have to get my firm to pay for it because, I didn't understand back then, I didn't understand the concept of somebody would sponsor or pay for it or what would happen. So I went to my firm and they've always been at Dykema super, super supportive of me. And, they were like, how much is this thing going to cost? And I feel like the first one, it's probably 30 grand or something. It wasn't crazy, but still, you had to ask the firm to just pay 30 grand for this. And they did. I mean, they did. They were very supportive, but we had 41 people there. Okay. And we did it at the old Adolphus. If you go to the Adolphus in Dallas now, you'll say, I don't know what you're talking about, Brian, because it's magnificent. They put hundreds of millions of dollars in. It's magnificent. But 13 years ago, they hadn't done the renovation yet. So if you were there, it was dusty room. I mean, it was really, it hadn't been renovated since Kennedy stayed there, back in that fateful day in Dallas and the whole thing, literally he stayed there. So it was old, and we had about 41 people. It was a high-powered group, believe it or not, though. I mean, it was 41 people, but, there were some really important CEOs of some really big organizations there that did come, but it was 41 people, and the 41 counted the Dykema people, and I had 8 or 9 Dykema people. So you take 41 and so you subtract 8 or 9, well, what'd you have, 33 or something? It was a very, very modest and humbling because I don't know the number have, John, but it wasn't 33. Okay. I don't know what would have been possible, but 33 was not good. I wanted to have, 41 total with Dykema, but 33 outside people. I wanted to do better than that, and I didn't. And, it was a good conference, though. We put on really good content, I felt like, over the course of a whole day. But, we had, like I said, 41 total, 33, non-Dykema people. And I was kind of like, do I do this again? Yeah. And I was like, well, I'll try this one more time. And we did it in the office of our building because they gave it to us for free. Because we spent 30 grand last year, the firm was kind of like, you can still do it, but is there a way to save some money here? So our building, because we're a good tenant, had like this space there. I mean, it wasn't very nice in the end of the day, but it was free and it had room and they could put chairs throughout everything. And we went and we did it, and we got 75 people at that one. And I was kind of dejected. I mean, again, it was a good conference, like good content, but I had like 75 people there, and I was like, I'm putting all this effort in, and nobody's showing up. And I don't know what convinced me. I think a couple of my clients that went to it said this was pretty good. They said, look, we'll help you next year get some people. You're reaching out to your network. We're going to help you do this. And the following year would have been year 3, and we had about 300 people. It was like 297 or something. And then I said, you know what? I feel like we're really on to something here. And, the next year it was 404. The next year was 606. Then it was 800 and something. Then it was COVID. We did it virtually. Then after COVID, John, we set the record for attendance record of any DSO event in the history of the industry. 2021 people wanted to go. We had 1,321 people there. And then I think, the next year after that, we probably had about 1,500. Then we had 1,700. Then sort of 3 years ago, we broke 2,000 for the very first time. Then, last year's event, we had 2,000. Then we had like 2,200. And then last year, we had about 2,600, which was, we keep breaking our own records at this point. I mean, I don't think anybody's broken our record of 1,321, the one we had in 2021. We've blown through that many times times and have 2,600, but I don't think anybody's even broken that record. So if we're listing this, it's like Dykema 2,600, Dykema 2,200, Dykema 2,000, Dykema 1,500. You're going all the way down to 1321, and maybe if we got down to 13th or 14th ranked, other events would be down there. There's really not even a second place at this point, but we paid our dues. I mean, when I tell everybody, they show up and sometimes people tell me like, oh man, your event is awesome. I tried to put up, I tried to put on my event or whatever, and your event is awesome, and it's a shame I can't get anybody to come to my event. I've said, look, I paid my dues. This didn't happen overnight. I didn't show up here suddenly and all these people showed up. It took me a lot of work to get to this point, and I'm proud. It's one of the things that I'm really, really, really proud of.
So I've been going since 2018, and hearing you talk about year 2 when you had some of the colleagues come up to you and they said, Brian, the content is good. And I'm sure that you've looked at over the years that we were talking about this in the second episode. We were talking about same store growth, right? You were talking about a practice looking at getting better internally versus focusing on number of locations. And there's no question that a good barometer of the success of an event, like you mentioned, is how many people are there, because it tells the journey, but so well as your team what it took to get there. But I can say that the universal thing that I've always heard, or I've always witnessed, and I know this is important to you, is the content. Right? I mean, it's like if the content is not relevant and good, and the team and everybody there has not taken the time to make sure that that's what keeps coming people back. And so I would love to get your thoughts. And as you look at, past and where we are now, of just speak to that, like how important it always was to you that make sure that because that's not an easy thing to do. I mean, as you know, you can
it's really hard. I mean, it's really hard.
It's tough. And so talk a little bit about kind of how you've done that. Like how have you been able to make sure that the content is fresh and relevant and all those different things?
Well, there's a couple components to this. And what we always say is best content, best networking, most fun is what we say with the event. But the content, it's tricky. And it has been. I mean, it's not tricky in as much as I've been in the industry 31 years and I know what good content is. I mean, I think that's part of it. I mean, we can, go around the industry, how many people have been there, like I said, like a dinosaur, 31 years from the beginning of the industry. I've been there. So that has, gives me sort of, a unique skill set to pick really good content. But that's part of the battle. What I've said is, in our another episode, we talked about organizations that have to be disciplined. Like they say, we're only going to pay this much, or this is what we're going to do, and we're going to tell you, and we're not going to compromise. And when you do that, sometimes people say, okay, I'm not interested, and you got to be okay with that. Well, that's been my approach here with the content. We're not pay to play. We are not for sale. The stage is not for sale, and it's never been for sale, and you can't buy your way onto it. Now, it's true that there are some people that sponsor the event that are also on stage. I mean, that's certainly true, but it's because they have a value-added message, not because they wrote the check. And you got to have discipline. I've had a lot of people offer me eye-popping money, relatively speaking, for the event, $100,000 checks if I would just let them go on stage and do a sales pitch. And I have probably turned down several millions of dollars over the last 5 or 6 years, from people. Obviously, when we had 41 people, nobody wanted to come. Nobody wanted to pay anything. But the last 5 years, it's been the biggest event in the industry. And a lot of people have offered me tons of money. And all I got to do is let them go up there and give a sales pitch. And we don't do that. We don't sell from stage. We don't do sales pitches. And some of them have been really good sports. They've said, all right, well, what can we do? And we've worked out a value added presentation where I felt comfortable. They felt comfortable. We were able to have them at a sponsor, but a lot of times they said, okay, well, fine. If you don't want my money, then I'm not going to pay it and I won't go on stage, then fine. And I end up not having them. I didn't want them to do a sales pitch, and they conditioned their check on being able to do a sales pitch, and I had to turn them down, and we didn't get their money. And that has happened over and over again. And I've gotten comfortable with that. You just have to be comfortable with that because otherwise you compromise your principles and, you become like a lot of other meetings that don't have the same success that we have. So that's been the toughest part. It's not been setting the content.
Yeah.
I know in any given year, I have a really good sense for what I should put up there. Plus, I know, as you know, thousands of people in the industry are always giving me ideas and saying, how about a panel like this? How about a presentation like this? And a good amount of time that a lot of CEOs and executives call me with ideas, it ends up being a good idea. And I'm like, thanks, that's great. We'll do that. So it's not so much setting the content, it's having the discipline to say, in some years, we're going to turn down hundreds of thousands of dollars in favor of people on stage that got paid nothing except they have an incredible message. It's a good message. It's a good presentation, but we're not deriving any revenue from it.
Yeah, I think it's what adds to the depth of it, as you know, Brian. I think that it's easy not to push back. And it's through that pushback, it's through that discipline that you've mentioned through some of these other episodes that is really where you get the true health, right? Of an event or a dental practice or a DSO is, I think, the theme here. And then what I'm taking, away from you a lot in these conversations is the discipline to be able to really stand for what you believe in. And then whether you're building a DSO or starting an event, stick to that. And there's going to be people along the way that's not going to work, but the byproduct of that is, I think, where we really start to get, in this case of the Dykema conference, like healthy content. And it may not always happen, but you've proven it. That's where the real respect comes over time, because as you know, you go back to that first event and you look back, it's certainly not easy to have this type of run, which you've done. Now, one of the things I wanted to kind of get your thoughts on is, there are people that have been going to this event for a long time. There's been attendees that are part of DSOs. There's been companies. As you continue to grow, I'm sure it's one of your goals. Love to get your thoughts on this. You want to continue to have, people that have not come to this event. So could you talk about this event from the lens of like a new attendee, maybe someone that would be coming to this for the first time versus someone that has been coming for many years, and how you look at that as far as like putting this thing together?
Yeah, I mean, there really is something for everybody. Okay, if you're, if you're not in the dental industry and you work for Costco, okay, you probably don't want to come to this.
I think they do want to come.
Okay, if you're a Costco executive, it's not for you. But if you're anybody that has any connection to the DSO industry, this event is for you. If you're a solo practice and you're not going to sell right now, but you want to learn about DSOs because someday you might, this event is for you. If you've created a group and you want to sell to a DSO someday, or you want to just learn best practices to keep operating your group independently, this is for you. If you're a DSO of any size, 10 offices, 20, 100, 500, 1,000, this event is for you. If you're a private equity investor that wants to put money, in the dental sector, this is for you. If you're any form of dental vendor or technology company or anything, and you want to do business with group practices, solo practices, DSOs, this event is for you. And what I've been particularly proud of is the way the event has reinvented itself and branched off. Like you pointed out, if we went back to those 41 people, a lot of them were general counsels. I still to this day, am in the legal field and the direct Dykema, and I'm still selling legal services. Yes, I am. But, we thought that was all we wanted to do. So of the, 33 people or so that were there were a lot of general counsels, a lot of legal people. It's just branched off to now you do have certainly general counsels there. You have CEOs. You have CFOs, you have chief revenue officers, you have revenue cycle management people, and you've got every aspect of group practices and DSOs there, entrepreneurs, founders, business people, every department represented. Then you've got the dental technology companies. And in the last, say, 5 years, it's gone from 5 or 10 of them to 200 or more of them lined up down the Grand Promenade there. You can't even get through there. It's so packed because everybody's there and they're doing deals. It's not just they want to do deals with DSOs, but they're doing deals with each other. Like the dental technology companies companies will say, there's no event where every single dental technology company is here. And so we're forging partnerships with other dental technology companies at your event, and a couple times decided to buy them, or one technology company bought another technology company, all while we're also trying to sell to the DSOs and dental organizations. So there's so many layers of things that are going on at the event. It started with, let's get the general counsels there and let's talk about legal issues in the DSO industry and let's sell them legal services. That's how it started. Now there's every layer of everything, and it just makes me so proud when somebody says to me, you've said this to me a couple times over the years with your business, I met this person at Dykema and now, I'm interviewing them on my show, or I'm doing this or I'm doing that. I mean, you've done it, and just about everybody else has met somebody at my event that led to some business opportunity or something that they're doing. And it warms my heart just so incredibly to see that, all the different layers of everything that's going on. But to answer the question you asked, there is something for everybody. If you are even remotely connected to the DSO industry, even to the point where you just want to learn about it, you're a dentist and you want to understand it, this event is for you.
Well, I want to share a story with you. So this podcast that we're doing right now actually started because I've known Jordan, VP of Sales and Marketing at Dental City for several years, and then also one of their founders, John. But we were standing outside one of the evening events and having a conversation together about how they wanted to continue to do some things and kind of take things to the next level at Dental City and add more value for their customers and do more in the media space and create a podcast. And it was at your meeting last year that this thing became a reality, right? There'd been a lot of conversations over the years or what have you, but I wanted to share that with you because that's a small example of exactly what you're talking about.
And that wasn't even the only one with you. I remember you were at other organizations and you told me this story over the years, but I love to hear this one right now. And Dental City is a great organization. And I'm so happy to be working with them. And I love to hear that, but it wasn't even the only John story. You had other stories about this.
There's a lot. And I think the takeaway from this is when you create an environment that these things can happen, like that's what this is, and as I look at from afar, Brian, as someone who's been there for many years and known you, that's what you've done. I mean, we've talked about content, we've talked about the vendors, we've talked about the legal part where it started. But what I think you've done is that, you all have created this environment that fuels ideas. And more importantly, it's kind of like it's a time on the calendar where I think everybody in this industry that is innovative and wants to move forward, they want to be there. And they can go into it with maybe direct appointments or things that they want to do or people they want to meet. But as you mentioned, in some cases, what ends up happening is it's the unplanned. It's the, wow, I didn't even realize this company was going to be there. I didn't even realize that, we had, these parallels. So I think that's what's most exciting. More importantly, is the environment that's been created from this.
Yeah, and I pay attention to the ratios too, right? I want people to know this if they're listening, that I obsess about it. Like I've got my own AI that goes through and runs statistics, and I pay really close attention to this, almost like if you were a baseball team and it's Moneyball and you're looking at, how many times this guy get on base, what's going on? And what I study is the ratios. What I mean by that is, you ever been to an event and it sounds like there's 300 people and you're like, oh, that actually sounds pretty good. There's 300 people. And then you look and it's 260 vendors and 40 actual people. And you're just like, oh my God. I mean, it was 300, but I'm not getting any value out of this. I really pay attention to that. And I look every step. Like we're 7 months away from the event and I'm looking right now. And if I'm like, oh gosh, we need more DSOs, or we don't have enough technology, or we don't have enough AI in this, it's impossible to not have enough AI in this market. But you don't have this company or that company, I'll get on the phone myself. And I've got good enough influence after 31 years. People listen to me, and I'll call somebody and I'll say, hey, I noticed, you guys are not coming. And sometimes it's like, well, we had a family vacation and, I'll say, all right, fair enough, but can you send somebody else? It's really important to me. I want somebody from your organization here. And most of my friends will say, yeah, you're right, I can't go, but I'm going to send my CFO, or I'll send my chief revenue officer or my marketing person. And I make sure we get somebody from that organization in some decision-making capacity to come there, even even if, the original person we thought can't make it, because I feel like I owe it to the sponsors that now we went from nothing at the first one to paying me millions of dollars to put on this event. I feel like I'm almost like I don't know, a caretaker or a fiduciary of their money, and I'm not going to take their money, put it into this big event and have it be, a dud. It's got to be good, and there's got to be an ROI for them. So I really obsessively look at who's registered, and I look way beyond the numbers. I don't say, oh, there's 1,000 people, that's great. I break down that 1,000 to every category, and if we're lacking in something, I jump on the phone, text, email, and start, harassing my friends and colleagues and people I know to make sure that somebody from their organization, shows up there, because I feel like I owe that to everybody that sponsors and pays for the meeting.
The crown is heavy, as you know, right? You've heard that for many years. A company evolves, it takes on a life of itself. I feel like this event has taken on a life of itself. When you look back at when you started it versus where you are now, and you just kind of mentioned it a little bit, how has it changed you? Like when you look at kind of, yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I want to go. Like, I think it's fun to look back, but I think it's also, it's great to have you share kind of like what this has done for you internally as a professional and just as someone, that takes it very seriously to shape this industry.
I mean, the greatest gift to me, different people might have different priorities, but to me, the greatest thing in life that has ever happened to me, and it's not money and success, although I have achieved a pretty good amount of that from doing this in 31 years, it's the ability to inspire people, John. To me, the ability, people come up to me. I have a DSO named after me that was named after one of my presentations. I had a founder of a DSO tell me he watched, and I know you were involved in this back in the day, one of my dental whale presentations back in the day, and he formed a DSO based on that presentation. I've had this happen so many times that it's not a coincidence that people have come up to me and said, as a result of this presentation, I formed this DSO, or I went and I did this, or I formed this organization. And it's an incredible gift to hear that. To have that power to inspire people. And I feel like a big part of that has been the Dykema Conference. Now, we do certainly podcasts like this and people will listen, but a big part of that has been that stage. As that Dykema stage has grown and it went from hundreds to now thousands of people being there, people listen to that. And as a result of certain things that have gone on, not just me, but people I've put on there that have said things that have inspired people, people are making decisions. They're doing things. They're realizing success in the industry. So how it has changed me is I take that message very seriously. Like, if we went back 10 years ago, not that I didn't take it seriously, but, we might go up from the stage a little bit and it might be we'd wing it a little or say a few things here or there. That doesn't happen anymore. I am really cognizant of every word that's said from that stage and what the message is and how that message is going to impact the industry, because so many people, and you can't make this up. I didn't set out to do this. I never set out to I'm going to be like some influencer person or I'm going to do it. It just happened, but it has happened. And now that it's happened, I'm very mindful of the message, and people pay attention to the things that we say. And I want to make sure the things that we say are spot on, relevant, appropriate. So if people pay attention and, God forbid they follow some of our advice or do some things that we say, that it's correct. Because I'll tell you, we go to some other events and, you've been there, not going to name any of them, but you go to some of them and you listen to presentations. And sometimes I'm just like, that's wrong. Like, I disagree with that. I hope nobody in the audience is actually going to hear that and actually take action based on that. You don't ever want to be there. And from my standpoint, I want to make sure every word that's uttered from my stage, if somebody listens to that and takes action based on that word, they'll be guided in the right direction.
Can you talk a little bit about the team? To put this event on, you mentioned something that really hit me a couple minutes ago when you talked about the level of preparation now that it requires. You go back 10 years, and if you know and understand the content and you're in it, you're living in it, and you can get up on stage and you can present, there's that level. And then there's a level now, like you said, where it just carries so much more of a responsibility to the industry because of the size of it. But with that has been your team that has been there to help you and to grow this and to really kind of make this what it is. Just love to have you share your thoughts on that a little bit.
Yeah, it went from literally you would plan it 60 days before, 70
Oh my
days
God, it's
before,
crazy.
something
It's
like
crazy.
that to I would show up there. If the event starts on, Wednesday, I'd show up Tuesday night or something. One time when it was in Dallas, I showed up Wednesday at 1 in the afternoon. I just kind of cruised over there at 1 in the afternoon on Wednesday. The event started Thursday. That was kind of what we were doing. Now, now we start planning this thing about a week after the other one ends. It is only fair, it ends. Laura Blaine was best event coordinator in the entire industry and, handles this. I got to let her go on vacation right when the thing ends or whatever, so everybody gets a week, 10 days off. And then after that week or 10 days, we start planning, for the next event. I felt behind this year because it was August 6th through 8th last year and it's July 15th to the 17th. So by definition, we lost a couple weeks. So I almost felt, even though it was a year in advance, a little bit behind. And we start planning and, everything, you gotta, you've gotta one, look at what worked the year before and you gotta top it. You gotta go bigger, things like, just silly things that I enjoy that people like the pyrotechnics that explode on stage. You gotta sit there and you gotta look at it and say, all right, this kind of worked, but we gotta go bigger. We gotta go better than that. The walkout music, people kind of like that, but maybe we want to do something different. Last year we had 3D holographs and, this year we said, we're going to go bigger than that. We're not going to quite do that, but we're going to have this giant 110-foot gigantic stage, and that's going to be really cool. So there's so many logistics apart from it. It doesn't take me long to come up with the content for the day and a half, event because I feel like I have a pulse on what, and I've
Yeah.
got a wait list of people that are trying to get on stage. So as soon as one year ends, I kind of look at people that I think are really, really good, but we couldn't get them on stage the one year. So we try to get them on the next year. So the content actually isn't terribly difficult, but everything else that goes into it, whether it's the workshops, the breakout groups, and they keep growing. The pyrotechnics on stage, the hype videos, beforehand. It's just there's so much going on with all of that. And like I told you, the one time I showed up Wednesday at 1 in the afternoon, I show up now the Wednesday before. I still show up on Wednesday, but it's Wednesday a week before. So
Yeah.
I'm there like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and then Wednesday the thing starts. That's sort of what it's come. And my team, maybe I think I always try to be the first one to get there and the last one to leave. It's just something that I do. But I think my team's probably coming that Friday or Saturday. If I'm coming Wednesday, maybe I'm by myself Wednesday, Thursday, Friday getting situated. But by that Saturday, the whole team's there Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. And then the event starts Wednesday and it's just grown. It's grown so exponentially, and people are now coming on Monday. That's the other thing. It's like, what you say, like Oscars week or award week. It used to be, the thing started Wednesday. People would fly in Wednesday, and some of them would make the reception. Probably half of them might miss the Wednesday reception, but they were all there kind of Thursday, and that's kind of the way we did it. Now, last year we had, like I said, 2,600 people there. We probably had 500 people there over the weekend before.
Yeah.
When you got to Monday and Tuesday, we probably had 1,500 people there. And then, the balance between 1,500 and 2,600, did fill in on Tuesday and Wednesday. But, we had think about that. We had 1,000 people there the Monday before the event running around doing different things, networking. Some of them say the event gets so crazy when it starts that they get better networking in the Monday before because there's still maybe half. Maybe there's 1,000 people there instead of 2,600 and they feel like they can have lengthy, intimate one-on-one meetings that Monday or Tuesday because the event hasn't started. So if some people you want to network with happen to be there on that Monday and Tuesday, you can spend conceivably a couple hours with them because the event hasn't kicked off, it hasn't started, everybody's got more time. And that's what I'm seeing. It just keeps getting pushed back where people are coming earlier and earlier. This year, we're looking at it. The hotel is almost not only completely sold out, of course, Wednesday, Thursday of the event, but the hotel's getting sold out Tuesday. It's almost sold out Monday too, because people are just pushing back. They're coming to the event so much earlier.
It's the bridge to connection. You talk about Monday meetings and companies wanting to be able to connect and this has given them not to say a reason, because they obviously want to connect, Brian, but as you know, like it's a catalyst. Like you've created this environment, like I mentioned, this catalyst for them to be able to do those things, which by default just, in my opinion, moves the industry forward. I'd love to wrap this episode
Yeah.
on getting your insight on kind of the future of dental events. And this is kind of how I want to frame this. We had all the years before COVID in dentistry, the way that dental events were, and then COVID happened that just kind of literally changed everything. And then there was this run back for so many of us in dentistry to want to just be with people, right? It was like, who cares if the content is good we just want to be back, together with people. And now it's really, I feel like kind of like rooted itself in dental professionals, especially as the industry has, this younger demographic, is really trying to take the time to look at where they spend their time. And so much more education can be done online, and just this new world that we live in and social media and all these things. So when you look out over the next, 3 to 5 years, and you look at events in general for dentistry, would just love to get your insight on this from your experience that you've had in this journey.
Yeah, no, I think you hit it spot on. I mean, dental events were prevalent and getting a good amount of momentum, sort of before COVID. And, there was a circuit of sort of events we would go. Dykema was part of them. And then COVID hit, and everybody was starved of companionship and friendship and fellowship, for those years. So I think in 2021, starting with my event that set the record, and it was no coincidence we set that record. We went from like 800 to 1,321 almost in that one period. The difference being people wanted to be with people, after COVID. And I think for the rest of 21 and for all of 22, it didn't matter. You could put somebody in a chicken suit dancing on stage and the event would be sold out because people wanted to be with each other throughout 2022. And that lasted most of 23 also. But when we hit 24, there was this hangover of, okay, now we're back. Everybody's back with each other, and you got to have a good event. If your event's not good, we're not going to go. And events really surprised me to sort of see it out of the blue. Events that in 2023 had 300, 400 people suddenly had 100 people
Yep.
in 2024 because people deemed them, the event wasn't that good. We just wanted to get out and see people. So we did it. But now that we're past that hangover of COVID, we're just not going to go. And events started to really struggle in 24 and 25. Some of the rich got richer. My event continued to grow for all the reasons we talked about, but other events that had had success in the past really, really struggled. And I think people are spending their dollars wisely. I mean, it always makes me feel good. It's not good for other events, but when people say, we're only going to one event and it's Dykema, or we're only going to two events and it's Dykema and this other event, that certainly makes me feel good, but it's a bad reflection on some of the other events that were out there. Now, part of it, John, is people didn't do a good job. People took a lot of sponsor dollars and
Yeah.
spent a lot of money, and the events weren't good. They didn't produce a product that people wanted to come back for, and I think that's sort of hurt the industry a little bit. So what we're seeing, to me, is there's probably 3 or 4 events that are continuing to do well in the industry, and a lot of the others, are struggling. I think a lot of people are getting smart. They're putting on smaller workshop type events where their target audience is 100 people, and they do. I'm doing that at Dykema. In
Yeah.
fact, and Dental City is going to be a part of some of those events going forward, where I target about 125 people. I mean, I can even make personal phone calls to that tune, and I just say, guys, it's real important. It's invite only. I want you guys to come, and we'll have an event with like 125 people. That's, it's very hard hitting. It's a really impactful event for what it is, but I'm not trying to get 1,000 people. I'm trying to get 125 people there. And I think a lot of organizations are doing that, and they're reaping success with their smaller targeted events. But the days of just saying, hey, I'm going to have this big DSO event and, 500 people are going to come. No, they're not. Unless you differentiate yourself and you demonstrate that you've got incredible content and networking, you're not going to do that.
Yeah. Brian, this has been awesome. And I think a universal theme through these 3 episodes with you, a couple of things. Number one is being real about growth, being real about what it takes to build healthy growth, whether you're building a dental practice, a DSO, a dental company, in this case, an event. It takes real commitment. It takes real discipline. Sometimes it takes, balls. Let's call it like it is.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
love hearing your story of sitting on that boat in the ocean and saying, I'm going to do this. And obviously times are different. And like you said, I mean, if someone's watching this and was wanting to kind of do the same thing, it's not that they couldn't. It's just that, the market has changed and you got to be cognizant of this. But I think universally, you shared a lot of encouraging thing for people that are listening to this, and I hope that everybody goes back and listens to these, and that's the whole goal, right? I mean, that's what Dental City wanted to do. Is that we're in a new age and era of dentistry, and there's a lot of things that are the same. There's a lot of great reasons of why people want to be in this industry. But for a lot of the same reasons, I feel like, Brian, over the years, where dentistry has said, we want to be respected more, like, medical gets all this clout and all this stuff or what have you. Like, that's going to require all of us that are in this industry to get better in every facet of what we do. And I'm encouraged about that. I think there's a lot of people that care. You're certainly one of those individuals. And so this has been great.
yeah, John, thanks for being so generous with your time. And I appreciate Dental City giving us this, this platform to actually have an extended discussion. Sometimes you do this and it's like, you got 6 minutes, and you do the best you can to hit the highlights, but they've really given us the time to drill down and go in depth on all this stuff. And, I hope, probably they're sick of me now, but in a year or something, they'll have me back. They'll let me do some more of this. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thanks, Brian. Congrats on 2026. Hopefully you can catch up on Dykema and where you guys need to be. I know it's gonna be better than it was last year, and looking forward to it. So thanks for your time.
Thanks, John.
Yep.